Good evening. What's up, everybody? So, as you can see, we got Gary here. I was running late, so
What's
we're
up,
just
everyone?
diving right into it. How you doing, bro?
What's going on, my man? I miss you.
Yeah, I know. I know. It sucks that, like, it really sucks that I was up, like, in your neck of the woods, like, last week, two
I
weeks ago,
know.
whatever. That's like, I mean, it was a good warm up for me actually, because like, I don't know. Anyway, we'll get into all that shit. But I mean, like for me, it was only a day trip, but like I have like my own issues with shit. Like I need like a base camp to go to. Like even if I don't use it, I need to. So like
Hmm.
I got this little motel and like it's Sarah looked it up and it was supposed to be closed, but it was all the way in Lake George, which isn't that close.
Yeah.
So it's not far, but it's not close, like I thought it was closer.
Yeah, it's
So I
like,
mean,
it is, it's kind of close, but yeah, as far as like a public area, that's the closest you can get kind of to that Whitehall area is Lake George area. But I can tell you, Lake George is super squatchy. That's my main research area is in that area. I got multiple research areas in that area. So which is really cool about that. So I'm just glad you got up here, got to experience it, got to kind of see what the big woods
perfect.
are all about, the big woods. And those aren't even the big woods yet. Like, when you go up north, it's so much more, you're just in the middle of nowhere with the big woods.
It's
Um,
wild. Like it's
yeah.
crazy. Like I expected it, but I don't like I mean I've been upstate, you know what I mean? But it's now with this mindset, like with this, like I haven't been up there since I've done this. So I've kind of been it's not it's not like it is up there over here. Like there's never that far before like I'm gonna hit something. I'm gonna
Hmm.
walk into something. Like I'm gonna hit at the worst case scenario, I'm gonna hit water. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Like you're never more than 20 minutes away from a beach here. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Like so I'll always bump into something up there. It's like, fuck, man. I'm like, if I go down, like I fell at one point, and like
Hmm.
I got up, luckily, but I started going again, and I thought about it. I'm like, oh, hold on. I'm like, hold the fuck on. Like nobody knows where I am. Even if I was like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm here, nobody knows where the fuck I am. You
Mm-mm.
know what I mean? Like even if I'm like, oh, I'm up here by this manor, and like
Yeah.
where, you
And
know?
then you got to hope you have cell phone service. Like that's the big part. Like in those woods, you get it and then it disappears. Like as you know, a lot of the places that I research up there, I don't get cell phone service till I leave. We had that one encounter that we can talk about maybe a little bit later about the battery drainage. Remember when all the car batteries died and all the batteries died and all that stuff happened? When Rachel and I were there with Denali, and literally, in order for me to get cell phone service, that's a 10-mile walk just to get service.
Oh,
One way. And that was a part of my language, a shit show, that whole thing. But,
feel
but
free at
yeah,
first, yeah.
yeah. But, it's once again, we get into those, when you're in the big woods, that's why, on the, NYBS page, I'm constantly talking about hiker safety. So important because when you get up there, like you said, you walk in circles. And that's what a lot of people don't realize when you walk into the woods, is that when you get into, wooded areas, a lot of times, including myself, I do it often too. We end up walking in circles, and we'll always double back somehow to where we are. Whatever, well, it's just logical the way people think. Well, when you do that in the big woods, you're not coming to a road. You're not coming to a
Yeah.
body. The body of water you're going to come to is a swamp or a small lake in the middle of those woods, but you
Mm-hmm.
still don't, there's no people. So it's super important, at the end of the day to always know what you're doing when you're in the big woods. You know what I mean? In the woods in general. Even down near you, so much stuff can happen.
Yeah, well, for sure. I mean, see, it's different too here though. Like I, I'll be honest. Like I worry about people. People like, oh, you don't carry. Like you got to carry. Like we don't have the biggest thing we have. I mean, obviously we have Sasquatch, but like I mean, as far as like animal like known predators that are on the
Mm-hmm.
list, there are none. Like the white-tailed deer has nothing bigger than.
Mm-hmm.
So, I worry about people. That's what I worry about. So like I don't carry, but up there I was like, fuck man. Like, like I had to play that game. Is that a Sasquatch? Is that a bear? Is
Yeah.
that fur off the side of a tree? What
Mm-hmm.
is it? Like I had to, you know what I mean? Like I had to play because a Sasquatch is not going to charge me. Like from my experience, I've never had one come towards me. You know what I mean? they either move away, they freeze, they poof vanish, you know, they Houdini me, like whatever. But I've never had one like be like, oh, I'm gonna come at this guy. A bear is gonna do that shit, you know,
Yeah,
like,
no, exactly.
or it might. That's the thing. I don't know. Like, I'm not. You
Well, I
know,
mean, a Bigfoot could do that too, man. I mean, you're talking the big woods. It's a different situation.
right.
I
You're
mean,
right. You're
I
right.
tell that I tell it to everybody, like, you know, once again, people are always like, well, Gary, they don't hurt people and they're non-aggressive. And I'm like, bullshit, dude. Like at the end of the day, I'm not happy every day. You're not happy every day. You're telling me that a creature that's in the woods, regardless of what we believe it is going to be happy every single day. And then when we come across it, there's no way, shape, or form it's not going to be grumpy one day and then want to charge one. Or an adolescent who's coming into his own that's kind of territorial because he wants to get into that, you know, whole like I'm in charge situation. Come on, like let's be real. Every
Yeah.
situation is different. Every family clan would be different depending on, you know, how many people they would actually see. In the big
Well,
woods, you
it
know,
all. There's so many variables, like so fucking many.
so many,
Like
so
even like you're
many.
saying, like, oh, you're not always in a good mood. Like even if I'm in a good fucking mood, I'm easily brought out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you know what I mean? Like if you like disrespect is like huge. Like I'm Sicilian. Like I grew up in a Sicilian family. Like I disrespect is huge. Like so like you know forget about the military, forget about everything else. Like that's how it's raised. Like so
Mm-hmm.
like man, like I tippy toe around there. Like I
Mm-hmm.
treat it like I just got to somebody's house and like I don't know them. Like when
Yeah.
after a while, like if I go to your house the first time, I'm gonna be like, oh, you want me to take off my shoes? Like I'm gonna like, you know, but if we hang out, if I come over there 15, 20 times, we, you know, like we get comfortable, we hang out, like things change between the
Mm-hmm.
both parties.
Yeah.
Comfortability, like you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Now comfortability and complacency are two different fucking things. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
No,
you
I
know,
get you,
like
man. I mean, that's the problem is everybody just doesn't really think fully. They only think within their very small parameters. So, you know, I always got to err on the side of safety. You know how I always constantly say that. So that's the
well,
way that's where I leave it.
everybody, yeah. I mean, everybody knows how I do it. Like I go out like an empty vessel. Like I go out like no expectations, no. Sometimes I'll go out and like be like, cause like I feel like I'm supposed to be looking for something, or like I feel like I have some kind of like something to do, like oh, like I wanted a footprint, like I feel like there might be one here, like I might get a feeling or something. But that's a different story. But I usually go out like empty, you know, empty.
Mm-hmm.
And first of all, you can't really disappoint yourself. Secondly, like you know, I leave myself open to take in whatever's there. Like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I just go in and say, what do you got for me today? Not necessarily even Sasquatch. What do you got for me today, universe? Like, I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm ready to hear what it is. I don't have no preconceived notions, no preconceived ideas, like a lot of stuff like that. Like I always hear you talk about like, oh, like wood knocks and structures and this and that. Like it was all taught to us by TV. Like
Mm-hmm.
that a lot of shit. I don't watch a lot of stuff because I like for that exact reason. Like I don't want
Exact
to.
reason.
Even if I'm like that's fucking stupid, it's still in here.
Yep.
It's still in here. You know what I mean? So that's why it's really hard to do. But I go out with, like nothing, and you know, and that's how sometimes I get like the mind speak too or stuff like that. And I know that's you know, well, I don't know.
Yeah, we can get into that. Like I say, like we can get into that, but let me do a couple. I just want to say hi, Footer Nation in the chat. You know what I mean? I want to give our buddy Joe, Western New York Bigfoot Research Organization. See Joe right there. Got your mug still, my man. So I want to give
That
him a
is,
shout out.
I think that's his old name.
This is his old name. Listen, this is vintage. This is going to be worth money when he gets famous. Okay,
I'm
so when he
telling you.
becomes famous, this is going to be worth money. So Joe Schneider, awesome. All right. And I once again, I want to say congratulations to you and Sarah and your new little one. That's awesome.
Thanks,
I mean,
bro.
it's awesome. I mean, I'm so happy for you guys. So that's super great. Can't go. I mean, babies can't go wrong, right?
Well, I mean, you
Love
know,
them. Love them.
I love him. I love him to death.
Vintage, right, Sarah? Vintage. This is vintage. He's old school.
I love these kids to death, but they're the only thing that could wear me out. Like I'm getting old, man. You know.
We're all getting old. We're all getting old. All of us. But
Oh
so
yes, Jimbo. Yes, Meadows. Guys, sorry if I it's been a little crazy, so I'll just come out with it. Yes, we had Meadow on 916. She's here. She was 5'12", I think, 5 pounds, 12 ounces. She's still like this. I don't even know what to do with her. Like, she's so little. It's ridiculous. But yes, thank you all for your kind words. I appreciate you.
It's
We
awesome. No,
appreciate
it's amazing. It's great. Even though, like I say, like sorry to say, we're all over 30. We're all vintage. That is true. I mean, at this point, it's just like, oh man, we're all vintage. Oh man, was actually my essay that I just wrote in English the other day was all about how old school, how we used to play outside and things like that, and it was accepted, and we learned, how to be accountable for ourselves as children. But nowadays, parents, they don't really let their kids go outside by themselves anymore, and it's like,
Yeah.
and if you do, the next door neighbor is like saying you're a bad parent for letting you do that. But that next door neighbor who says that is the same same parent as a kid that was going to bonfires, going in the woods, drinking, going out, having fun in the streets, like, and your parents trusted you. And it's funny that, that was like one of my essays was just about that. And it's really funny because it's true. Like, we're almost like vintage people, and it's the society has just changed so much now.
It's weird. Like, I mean, I used to be gone for like more than the daylight
All
hours.
day, literally
Yeah,
all day. But you knew that
more.
once your light came on, once that porch light came on, or
Yeah.
your parents,
Uh,
you knew you got your ass home.
I
Like,
mean,
that
that's
was it.
if you were on the block, like, yeah, like sometimes,
Yeah,
I mean, when you got older, you could like take the bike. Like,
yeah,
I used to ride my bike. I don't even know
everywhere,
no
right?
more. Like, more than I'll drive right now. You know what I mean? Like, I'll be like,
Yeah.
boy, I don't want to drive down there. Like, that's the only
Hmm.
way down. Like, I mean, I don't know. Like,
I get you, man. But all right, so let's get right into mine
yeah,
speak. All right. So Footer Nation, this is something I've never talked about. I brought it up on my last podcast show with Joe, the New York Bigfoot Society show, and I just kind of hinted at it. So one thing, I'll just put it straight out, as maybe a lot of you know or don't know. I stay on the flesh and blood side of Bigfoot. That's what I believe. Okay. But I've started a project called Project X. I started that back in January of this year, where we look into all aspects of the Bigfoot phenomena. And so I'm actually, all my background is in science. So I do animal behavior, I do things like that. All my degrees are in science. So what we do from Project X standpoint is try to put I'm a data guy, and Mike makes fun of me all the time, like you and your data, right?
I'm lightweight jealous, to be honest with you,
That's it. But so what
because
we
I'm
started
not
doing,
organized.
yeah, it's I mean I'm only organized in certain aspects. Not my real life is a shit show, but I'm just saying that. But anyway, so especially with time, I suck with time. I'm awful with time. But anyway, so what we do with Project X is we try to get a data number based on what the phenomena is happening. I own a paranormal business. Okay. So I've been a paranormal researcher for 27 years, 26, 27 years now. So I have all the equipment at my disposal from ghost hunting and things like that. So what I've now done as a Bigfoot researcher, and I've been doing that for about 12 years, is we bring that into the woods with us. So I'm measuring frequency, I'm measuring EMF, I'm measuring barometric pressure, I'm measuring all these different things. When a Bigfoot encounter, a Bigfoot event may happen. And so once again, we're trying to get readable data for the possibility of a Sasquatch being spiritual in nature, a forest-based spirit type entity in nature, extraterrestrial in nature, or a paranormal being, and things like that. So when I talk about the paranormal Bigfoot, I make it a very broad-based subject on that. Only because the way I look at the paranormal Bigfoot, it's out of the normal, right? That's what paranormal means, not normal. So from my perspective, as a person that thinks Bigfoot is a human, so I think Bigfoot is a type of human. That's what I think.
Yeah.
And because a lot of the characteristics are human in nature, talking to the Native Americans, they call them a tribe of people. So I personally do believe it's not an ape. I don't think it's a chimp. I don't think it's anything like that whatsoever. I think it's a form of human. And that's why, not that they're smarter than us, but they work side by side with us because they have the thought process that we do. Just
Mhm.
not at the same level as we do from living in a technology world, living in those, but being in the forest, they're able to, basically think enough to keep them out of away from us. So that's kind of the way I've always done it. But with that being said, as a field researcher, that's the key word I said, researcher. I consider myself a researcher. Everybody gives themselves a freaking classification. But as a researcher, it's my job to go and research these subjects, non-bias. And Mike will tell you, when I go into the paranormal side of the Bigfoot, I'm very non-biased about it, really. I just put all my beliefs aside. Because I want answers just like everybody else wants answers. So what I'm basically trying to do is back up what people like, Mike and other people say, how, like Sarah just said, if you do believe that you can use to detect portals and energy change. Yeah, like I think we can. So we have the equipment, because in the houses that we do, when we do an investigation of a house, we're able to find these portal type areas using equipment, using this stuff. So why couldn't we figure that out in the woods somehow? Or even if we can't find that portal per se, we'll say, because you'll never, maybe that's quantum physics, we're not going to be able to probably prove that, but it will give us information saying, like, at this spot where we see Bigfoots, right, that the energy, the frequency is different, all this stuff is different here. So what is this number that I'm reading that shouldn't be here, because this is the natural environment? The natural environment does not give off readings like this. So that's what we do with Project X. And I say, like, we look at, I got forest people. Yeah, like they're forest people. They're forest people. They're human.
I was talking about this to Sarah the other day. I'm like, our son, he's 1. He does shit with his feet. Like, I mean, like, just like they're his hands. They're as good as his hands at that age. And they're like, every day they're progressing. And I'm like, society tells us to wear shoes. We need shoes. We need them because we have to go to the store. We don't go hunt and gather. We go to the store. We need them for that. We need them to go to work instead of just bartering or whatever. You know what I mean? With our fucking shoes off, like, whatever. So, like, a lot of our shit is just dumbed down from Jump Street. You know what I mean? Like, why the fuck do they sell baby shoes anyway? You know what I mean? Like, whatever. That's I'm just saying, like a lot of us, I think like we're for lack of better words, we're programmed to just like be unnatural. You know what I mean?
No, and you're 100% right. And I'm glad you brought up before. And I know we kind of got off the subject of mind speak. I'll definitely get there in a second. But and you brought up before, right? I had my mentor is a big name in the Bigfoot research community. Okay. And which I'm not going to mention, but the person who mentored me is, like you said, we learned about tree knocks. We learned about all these type of tree bends. We learned about building tree structures. That's what I was taught. All right. Now, one thing I freaking hate, I hate this word, and I'm actually going to start posting this on my page because it really kind of pisses me off, because it's really disrespectful, is the word woo. The woo in Bigfoot, the woo, okay?
I brought up to Sarah yesterday, and she was like,
fucking hate it.
She's like, what's the fucking woo?
I hate it. Okay, so I really hate it. And I mean, this is coming, I mean, it's insulting. It really is. And I'm going to start posting this more on the NYBS page, that, we really need to stop this bullshit and call it for what it is. It's bullshit. People are allowed to believe in what they want, and that's great and fine. And being open-minded to all experiences is part of being a researcher, because we don't have all the answers. You can be passionate, and that's great. You know what I mean? And we all have passion, but I hate the word woo. It's pissing me off. But at the end of the day, like you say, like we talked about, like tree knocks, and that's what we're taught by TV. But in the end of the day, there's no proof.
For the longest, like, I was just hearing people like structures, and I'm like, what the fuck why? Like, okay, so they're always there. Everyone will tell you, oh, look for the structures. That's where they're at. But I'm like, why? So I started to look into it, and I started to realize that, they don't need to. I asked, what do they eat? And the answers kept coming to me, but I was missing them. So I started to realize they don't necessarily need to eat food. So they have energy base, like, so they could take it from power lines to the third rail to train tracks. Like, they could take it from the sun. So, like, they use these structures as connectivity and as conduit, and it all goes into like the main structure where they sit, and it basically like sends all this energy free flowing through the woods, and they harness it. And like, but like, I mean, how the fuck did nobody get to this point yet? And if they did, why isn't it out there? Like, why do they just keep saying, oh, the structures, like a tree snap? Like, I was told, like, oh, tree snap, like that's like it's a language. Everyone say, oh, it's a language. It's a language. What fucking language? Like, how do we know this? Like, so that was what I was getting to earlier. I had to unlearn. I was learning.
Everything.
I was learning from the wrong people, and then I
Yeah.
was like, I'm gonna unlearn everything and just go out there and just see what they give me.
Yeah,
You know
and
what I mean?
that's the thing. Like we always have to unlearn. We have to unlearn things in order to relearn things. And even when we unlearn things, we can relearn the same things that we unlearned. We just need to relearn them in a different manner, not the way someone told us to learn them, our own way that we learn them. You know what I mean? So that's the way I like to look at it. And like our boy Joe just said, he says the woo people call themselves woo generally. But I mean,
Sometimes, yeah.
you know what? You could be right on that. But when I see the
Sometimes.
word woo and I hear people talking about the woo, that it's the other way around. Like, oh, we don't even respect you. We think you're, appreciably trash because you're into the woo. And people have told me that personally over and over and over again, because they don't want to look into it, and that's the facts. So at the end of the day,
That's okay, but like to me,
not about it.
You're selling yourself short by not just looking at everything as
Everything as a whole.
Open-minded.
Yeah. So anyway, so let's get into my mind speak thing. So Joe and I were kind of hitting on it on the last show. I never talked about it in public, so this is the first time I'm ever talking about it in public. Now I do feel I feel important because, like I was saying in my other show, it's me withholding information. So as a person that as a researcher, we cannot withhold any information, regardless of what we find and regardless of what we believe. So I guess we're going back into like 2011, between 2011 and like 2013, somewhere in that time frame. I don't know the exact year. I'm bad with that shit, but it's that time frame. I was out in the woods in the Adirondacks, kind of where you were, okay, that area. And we're out in the woods doing a Bigfoot investigation. There was about, I think, like 6 of us at base camp. And now back in the day when I do Bigfooting a lot differently now. Back then, we basically find a camp in the woods, chill at the camp in the woods, make a fire, eat lots of junk food, and then have a good night. It was like getting away, but then we kind of go off into the woods, right? That's not how I do things now. I actually make a bush camp in the middle of nowhere where there's no people. I go like you, Mike and I, we go bushwhacking into the
woods. Pretty badass, yeah.
Yeah, we go. I don't sit at a campsite anymore. I go, just like Mike, we go way into the woods. So anyway. So we're sitting there. So one of me and one of my investigators at the time, I was like, you know what? Let's go down near the creek because, once again, Bigfoots would use the path of least resistance, right? So the creek areas, they walk right through the creek areas, no problem. You would not even know they're there because you wouldn't hear them as they were stepping on top of the rocks and slowly going down the creek beds. There's no resistance there. So large human type creatures would be able to walk through there, right?
Yeah, it throws off smell, everything. Yeah,
everything.
Everything.
That's why we find so many tracks wire next to the creek beds, right?
It's good conduit too. You know what I mean?
Everything. So yeah, and if you're talking about energy, that would totally make sense. So anyway, so we start going down the hill and we stop, and all of a sudden we hit that what I call infrasound. Okay, which I've had infrasound behaviors, and I've had infrasound encounters, where something has hit me and I go into fight or flight. Like I'm ready to go crazy. Like I might get goosebumps all over. I start feeling nauseous. I get dizzy, disoriented, and it kind of stops me in my tracks. I've had that happen multiple times. Joe and I will tell you that we do believe in infrasound, and I do believe in infrasound. But in the same sense, at this thing, what I thought was infrasound, it may have started off as an infrasound encounter. And the person I was with, she was starting to feel kind of similar to the way I was feeling. But the difference is, they'll give a little bit more of a backstory. I'm a psychic, Okay, so I'm a medium, so I do
Mhm.
hold that skill, like if you want to call it a skill, but I don't really use it, especially Bigfooting. I don't use that shit at all. But when I do ghost hunting, then I use those abilities. Okay,
Well,
so
I mean,
anyway,
so what does mind speak in essence? I mean, it's reinventing the wheel. It's renaming telepathy,
mhm.
right? Which is a form of being psychic. You know what I mean? So it's interesting to me that you have that ability. You know what I mean? And it wasn't always tapped into you. You know what I mean? Like
No.
you spent a lot of time out there, and it never happened.
Well,
You know?
and once again, and that makes sense, and we'll talk about that in a second because it does make sense. It was told to me why at my last lecture I did last week, and
Well,
it
yeah.
was interesting. It's interesting, and you've said it to me in the past too.
Well, I mean,
But
yeah, that person said it to you pretty bluntly. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
however it takes for you to, but that's basically in essence what it is putting everything. I mean,
everything aside,
everything, your
everything aside,
personality, every fucking,
everything,
yeah. It's
everything.
hard. It's hard.
It
That's
is.
where people bring in meditation. Oh, I
Hmm.
meditate, and that's the same concept. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
I practice Reiki, so I could kind of meditate while I'm walking. You know what I mean? Like
Yep,
I can do it while I'm moving. Like I can.
correct.
So like it's just practice. It's fucking practice. It's not a natural thing, but maybe
Hmm.
it is, and we lose it, and I gained it back. But I mean, I had to take courses to like. I only found later that I could apply that Reiki training into this. You know what I mean? Like I took something I knew and applied it.
Yeah,
Anyways,
and so I had like and Larry, yeah, this is one of these things like Larry in the chat. It is. It's something that happens to people is infrasound encounters where you come into that fight or flight. So once again, now we're kind of stopped where we are, right? Now this
yeah,
is where the mind speak encounter I believe happened. Now you hear now when you talk about the Bigfoot from the spiritual side and mind speak, you hear it from two different ways. Some people visualize things, some people hear things. All right. Well, because I'm a psychic and I'm what's called I'm a clairvoyant. So what a clairvoyant is, I'm able to see everything that happens in front of me. Okay. So when I'm seeing a paranormal encounter and doing like spirit work, I'm able to see, what the environment looks like at that point in time. Can I explain that? No, I can't. So I don't have anything to explain that way. So I actually saw a mother Bigfoot, right,
right.
walking her two little ones with her, and they were on the creek bed. Now, when that happened, like when I had that infrasound encounter happen, which I still believe is an infrasound encounter, it all of a sudden stopped me. So the person I was with, we stopped. We didn't move anymore. And
Yeah.
then I saw her, like the Sasquatch, looking at me. And as she was walking, she kept looking at me as she was walking down the creek bed with the two little ones. And then she went in front of us. And now, once again, to kind of give you a little bit more a visual, we were up a hill. So the creek is like down on the bottom. We were kind of still like a quarter, like we're almost 3/4 down the hill. So
So,
we're almost,
is
we were,
this a vision? So you're visioning something that you can't physically see?
because we
Yeah,
weren't near the creek yet.
you
We
couldn't
were
physically see it yet, but you could see it in your mind.
in my mind because we
Okay.
haven't got to the creek yet.
Yeah.
We were still a little, not when I say a little ways, I don't know. Like I'm bad with that shit. But
No, no, yeah.
we're like 3/4 down the hill. So the creek was literally in front of us, but
Mhm.
we couldn't see the creek yet. We haven't came to that spot yet. So as the Squatch, I guess, was walking through the creek, the thing I remember that's kind of like weird is that she was staring at me the whole time when she was walking, right?
Yeah.
As she started getting past me now, she turned her head to the front. And then once she turned her head to the front, I snapped right out of it. And now I was back into that fight or flight syndrome. Like my body was like all tense. I had goosebumps. The person I was with, she didn't have that same visual sense, but she was also being hit with infrasound at the time.
Yeah.
So, and then we end up turning, and then honestly, we were done. We ended up going back up the hill. We didn't pursue it. We didn't go down to the creek anymore. We turned around. We went up the hill to camp. When we got to camp, one of our team members came over because I was like frazzled. I looked like
Yeah.
I was scared shitless. And I'm not gonna lie, I was scared shitless
Yeah.
at that time. I did not know what happened. So then I'm sitting on a log I'm like shaking. Like I was unclosed shaking. The person I was with had a cigarette and just walked up. She just walked up to the road at that point because she was like, out of it. And then when my mentor came over. I'm like, listen, dude, I need to get out of here. I'm done. I'm done. I need to get out of here. Like, I'm done. Like, I'm just done. And they're all looking at me like, dude, why now? Meanwhile, I'm a big time mountaineer. I do mountaineer. You know, I mean, I live in the woods. I
Yeah,
live in the woods. Like,
I know what you mean. Yeah.
that shit don't scare me. But that encounter that I had, because I specifically know what I saw, and no one can tell me otherwise what I saw.
Yeah.
And because it was so real, that Squatch, I knew it was a female. She had
Mm.
little ones with her. She stared me in the fucking eyes as she was walking down that trail, like that creek, staring at me. And then when she started going to the left, like leaving, when she turned her head and went down, that's when like it all stopped. So if you want to say that's mind speak, I mean, that has to be a form of mind speak, because you hear the
Yeah.
stories of
Well,
visualization.
you'll hear about mind speed a lot, but it's because it's something that's brought up. But the visions, I find like I break it down into a few different fields, like into a few different categories. Like there's mind speak, which is like it's almost like the sound of like a stern voice that tells
Mm-hmm.
you something and it's talking to you, and it's like it's not your thoughts, you know what I mean? And then there's also like visions, which is like it could be like while you're sitting in your house and like they show you something that like I got a vision that was it could be 5 years from now or 15 years from now. I don't know. But it's powerful. You know what I mean? It makes even if I speak it right now to you, like just like verbatim, like I'll cry. And like I get them and I break down crying, tearing, like I lose all like physical like I can't I'm like I get it and it comes and that's it takes
Yeah.
over,
Yeah. And
and
I
that's
honestly,
all I see, like I can even lose time and space, but and then there's other times where I just know something like okay,
mm-hmm.
like I get like it's more than a gut instinct, it's like here, like it's almost like someone's giving you the answer, like when you're like in school or something, you're like, fuck yeah, like, oh, like you got the answer finally, like you figured it out, or like whatever, or like you're trying to remember something and you remember it and you're like, oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like that much of like like yes, like and
Yeah.
that's a different type of way too. And then there's like the gut instinct, which I think
Mm-hmm.
is more than a gut instinct.
Correct. And
I
and
think
that's
there's
the
more
thing.
to it.
100. And that's the thing with that encounter. That, once again, like when that was happening, like if I wish I wish I could recreate it. You just can't recreate something like that. But the gut feeling that I had when that was happening, like I was like in a trance, like literally in a trance. Now this is all, I mean, Footer Nation, what I'm saying sounds crazy to me. Like it really does. Um, but at the end of the day, this is what happened. And I'm
Yeah.
telling Black, I don't care who believes what. The fact of the matter is it happened. So
So
I'm
like
glad.
now this doesn't make things easier, right? Like I mean,
No,
like
no, no, no.
that's where I don't get why people would make like I don't question people so much like with stuff like this because I'm like this makes it so much fucking harder. You
Way
know what I mean?
harder.
Way harder.
So
Like
way harder.
I wish I could come to you and report that it's just a fucking ape walking around in the woods and he's fucking really good at
No,
hiding and his hair fucking dances in the sun. I wish that was it
it'd be
because it would
so
be
much easier.
so
So
much
much
easier.
easier. And that's the thing I find funny is like all these people, talk about it being a primate and an ape and a chimp or something gigantopithecus. They talk about all this stuff. But when you stop and look at what Bigfoot does, everybody's like, well, it does chimp stuff, it does ape stuff, it does a lot of stuff. But at the end of the day, does it really do that? Or does it do things that we just associate as humans? Humans need to associate something with something at all points in time. They can't just be like, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
So they can't
Well,
say that. They
that's
cannot
the
say that.
ego too. Like
Yeah.
it needs to the human needs to understand, needs to relate. We like to
Yeah.
relate to things. We like to
Relate
be
to
comfortable.
everything. And
Yeah,
that's psychologically correct. That's a fact. That's
we've
a
been
fact.
taught that we're the highest thing on the food chain. So if
Yep.
you have somebody who's uh like what's the word, like a narcissist or something, like they're not going to be the
Mm-hmm.
guy to go to and be like, oh yeah, like there's something out there that could be smarter than me, like you're not going to get that info from them, like they're gonna dumb it down, like but okay, long story short is you know like like you said, you have your beliefs and this and that, but you didn't let that fray you from
No.
from experiencing that or taking that, you know, and
No, and exactly, and I'm not going to. And but now it comes with here, let me answer some of the questions. So Larry,
yeah,
do I
sorry
believe
guys.
no, you're fine. Larry, do I believe it's a fallen angel? No, I don't. I don't go on that. But once again, do I think that, but even though I don't believe that, it doesn't mean I'm right whatsoever. It could be anything. I'm to the point now, and I've said this before in the past, I'm to the point of not really classifying a Sasquatch anymore. And I'm really
Yeah,
starting to get to that point. And I'm not,
no,
and
no,
I still, once again, like you say, I'll still talk about, I believe that they're a human type thing. And I believe. Okay. But at the end of the day, I'm really starting to more and more and more, as I continue to do this a journey, I guess, is I'm getting to the point where I don't want to classify them anymore. Because at the end, what does it really matter? The
well,
only
that's a big thing to
matter.
me. Like if I try to stay away from big picture questions, but really I stay away from everything. Like that's like I'd love to know if it's like a Nephilim or if they're
Yeah.
just, you know, the missing link or whatever. I'd love to know. But the fact of the matter is I'm never gonna get there by myself. Like I'm
We're
never gonna
never
get
going to
to
get
that
there,
point.
period.
Yeah, so like I mean, and even if we do, like it's gonna I'd have to. Everyone needs proof, right? Like, because if you have a great photo, it's a fake or a hoax, and if you have a piece of shit photo, it's a fucking easy target. So either way, you know, you're asked out. Like sharing is
Yeah.
not fun. Sharing is not
No.
fucking fun. Like
Mm-mm.
everybody, I'm not. This isn't directed at you guys because you're awesome, but like there's we're easy marks. Like all day long, I get it. It takes tough skin.
Oh yeah.
Fucking
Oh
tough
yeah.
skin. Like
No,
you
and
get hammered.
honestly, I'll be the first one to tell you I'm no different. Like I'm really no different. You can take a shot because I'll tell you I'm no different in that way. And I will tell you I hate red circles all day long. I fucking hate them. I hate them. But at the end of the day, listen, just because I hate them doesn't mean I don't respect them.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So, and that's the difference. I can hate something, but I can still fucking respect it. Okay. And once again, I'm biased. I'm a very biased person because you're my brother and I know you and I know you're no bullshit and I know
Yeah.
what you do. And I tell you all the time, I respect you and I love the shit that you do. So, do you want to say I'm biased? Fuck yeah, I'm biased. I'll do that shit all day. And I have no problems telling everybody I'm biased toward Mike because I know him as a person.
Right.
But when I see a lot of this bullshit out there that they're putting up red circles all over the fucking planet, and I have one picture that has 9 red circles in it, I can't even see nothing in the photo because it looks like
Well,
a bunch of I can't see. That's a
well,
lot of circles.
that's where it gets hard for people because
Yeah,
now you circled it. So now you're showing somebody what you see.
yeah.
And if they don't see it, now it's your choice what you do with that. You know, first if they were disrespectful, fuck you. Fuck you. We have nothing to talk about.
No, it's
You already showed your ass. So now,
yeah. It's
so
over
like,
with.
but you gotta decide. I don't give a fuck. And I mean,
Yeah,
it's hard because like a lot of people want to be the one to prove shit to people.
yeah.
But if you're coming to me and telling me right off Jump Street, I don't fucking see shit. That ain't shit. That's a tree bump. You're already showing your ass, and I'm not gonna waste my time there. You know,
Yeah,
so like
and like I say,
the red
and I'm the
circle
first
is
one to
good,
tell
but
you, I fucking hate them. But at the end of the day, I respect it with certain people that I respect in the field and not even the field, fuck the field, the people that I respect in life. Okay,
yeah,
let's fucking get rid of that field shit. The people I respect in life. Okay,
yeah,
because like yes, Mike and I met through the Bigfoot field, but we're brothers for life now. Like we're outside, we're cool. You know
yeah.
what I mean? So let's put that shit aside. But anyway, I'm just over the red circles with a lot of these things unless you really can show me what you're looking at. Now, people that are educated in what they're doing, okay, and when I mean educated, can actually be like, yo, gee, so this red circle here, this is what I'm seeing, but A, B, C, D, E, F, G, you just gave me 5 different reasons why you're telling me this that may be logical to me and be like, you know what? Listen, you really thought this through. I can actually understand what you're saying from an open-minded standpoint. So you know what? Awesome. Kudos to you because I get it. And you know what? I'll sit there and be like, all right, that's cool. Like, cool, fine. Like, and I'll just leave it at that. I'm not the end all to say like your shit is perfect and your shit is shit. I have enough shit of my own that I'm like, oh, this is awesome, but it's shit. So at the end of the day, we got to just like get rid of that shit. Who the fuck cares what Bigfoot is really when we think about it?
Yeah,
You know,
I know, I
and,
agree.
but
I
I'm guilty of that. And I still even did that in this show. I started off with, I'm a flesh and blood guy that thinks Bigfoot is a human. But in the same sense, just because I believe that, we just got to remember at the end of, we're never going to know, because it's going to take science no matter what. It doesn't matter who we are. It's going to take science.
Yeah.
You'd have to make the okay to be like, listen, Bigfoot does exist. We do know that they exist, which they already know. Like we already know that. But in the same sense, they're going to have to make the scientific decision to then go to the government, and then the government's going to have to be like, listen, they exist, just like UFOs. How now UFOs exist.
Even still, I'm pretty sure there's still people who are like, what a bunch of crock of shit. You know what I mean? Because who trusts the fucking government as well? Like,
what I find funny is this. This is what I find hilarious now. All these skeptics. I love skeptics all day. Like, I'm like, I love you. You're great. You can show me you're an asshole all day long. But at the end of the day, all these skeptics that said that UFOs don't exist and they're fake and all this bullshit, right? Saying, oh, aliens don't exist, blah, blah, blah. They're going attacking people for their UFO footage that they're like, well, that's not a UFO. That's a weather balloon, or that's some bullshit, or that's a drone, right? So they literally sit there and rip people apart. And now they have nothing to say because the government came out and said, just so you know, UFOs do exist. Here is why. We're now acknowledging that they're real, right? Yeah. So where did all these skeptics go all of a sudden?
Well,
where do they go?
Yeah.
Because now you, who were the asshole, was proven wrong because you were so adamant to try to go after people nonstop, but instead just couldn't be like, you know what, your point of view is your point of view.
I mean, like, I'm a fucking rare case. Like, I'm that guy. Like, most people are like, oh, like I don't want to say like what I see, or like I don't want to point at it because like it might not be, and then people be like trash you for. I don't give a fuck. Like, everybody knows me. I don't give a shit. I'm gonna tell you what I'm thinking, what I'm seeing. If I come an inch to the left and that turns out to be a patch of leaves, fuck it, I was wrong. Yeah. I don't care. I don't like. I mean,
you can't care.
It's fucking
Bigfoot. It's Bigfoot. You can't care.
Let me tell you, like, you're gonna you're gonna think you're right today, and then in the morning you're gonna be so fucking wrong. And even with yourself, like, I do it all day. I'm like, holy shit, look at this fucking thing, and like I zoom in on the picture and I change the filter, and I'm like, oh my god, it's like ready. And then like I go and eat something, I come back, I'm like, where the fuck is it? Yeah. I'm like, where? Like, it couldn't have been that good. It's gone. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, so, I mean,
we all do it. We all do it.
It just, we don't need to make it harder on each other. You know what I'm saying? No. Like how you said, like red circles. Like I sometimes I might do them, sometimes I might not. I don't know. But like, if I don't see something that somebody circles or something, I'm not gonna fucking destroy them. Like, hey, thank you for sharing. You know, it takes guts. That shit's not always easy. Like, you know, like little motivating shit, because we need everybody we can. You know, and I don't know, man. We're such easy targets because we're different. Like, you know, and you spoke of a psychic. So there was a psychic at the festival, and she's like, you know, the spirits were pissed off earlier. And I won't get into anything else, but she's like, you know, I asked him why. She says, all these people here, these Bigfoot people, are judged on the regular, and they hate them. And they're walking by me, judging me because I'm different.
And that's the thing with and that's the thing about the Bigfoot community, including myself. And this is, I mean, once again, ego has a lot to do with a lot. All right. And like I was told, I did a lecture last week, and I mean, it was great. I always
how much did you get paid? How much did you get paid for that lecture?
Zero. I do it because I just want to meet people.
You lost money because you gave your time, your gas.
I lose money on that, but that's just because I enjoy the subject. But in the same sense,
that's where you're right. That's where it needs to be. You're right. The ego comes into play. Like, ego
comes in.
You could get a little popularity feeling about yourself, or like a little fame, whatever you want to call it, or, you know, or money. You know, like fucking. You got to play the algorithm and this. Fuck for. Why the fuck for? If I got footage, I'm gonna put it out. I'm not gonna wait till 9 tonight, or, you know, or you know, the reason I do that sometimes I'll post is because we have people overseas, like, you know what I mean? But that's why, like, not because like, oh, I need to. I don't even know how you get fucking paid off the shit.
No, but I mean, the moral of the story, the reason I'm even bringing that up, is that, so this is the crazy part to me. So once again, the woman told me I had to put my ego aside, right? She goes, you have an ego, you got to put it aside. And I'm like, listen, I know I have an ego. I'm not going to tell you, because when I talk about things, I come from a very educated standpoint behind subject matters, of the why. And once again, that's my schooling and my background. But once again, we know nothing about Bigfoot. So it's all this bias confirmation bias, as Joe and I speak all the time. But at the end of the day, so after we did that thing, whatever, cool. So I went back into the woods. So one thing that I do is, we clean up. I take care of a couple trails. I take care of some preserves, right? So I started taking care of this one preserve, and Rachel and I are out on the trail, out there just with Denali, and we're just walking. Now, was this a day just to get out in the woods? Nothing more. And we were doing a little bit of a
That's
cleanup,
the
right?
best. Yeah.
So we get
Those are
into
the
the
best things.
woods, and once again, this is where it gets weird. Okay, is that it's a place where you wouldn't expect a Bigfoot encounter, not at all. Okay, so and when I say wouldn't expect a Bigfoot encounter, we're talking from the logical standpoint of where I
Right.
come from with the
Right.
Bigfoot, is
That's
it
that's
being
my
is
whole that's my whole experience every day
yeah,
is this island. Like, you know
yeah,
what I mean?
exactly. So because it's coming from a different standpoint. Well, anyway, so
Yeah,
we
yeah.
did the hike. We did the hike. We did some cleanup. Right. We got done cleaning up all this glass from, it was a farm dump, so they dumped all sorts of shit from the farm. We start walking. Right. And no, we didn't have Denali the first time. That was the second time. We started walking, and then all of a sudden we heard this huge tree snap in the woods. Now, this wasn't like something stepping on a branch. This was a tree snap. Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Not even 5 seconds later, a rock comes whizzing by Rachel and smacks the tree on the right side of the trail, and you hear the rock go pop, and it literally went right by her. Meanwhile, then there was an owl in the woods at that time, and they don't call me Hootenholla for nothing. So I'm sitting there talking to the barred owl back and forth, and meanwhile she's like, "We need to leave now," and she takes off, right? And I'm still standing there like a dumbass, playing with the owl, talking to the owl. Meanwhile she's running away, and then I'm like, "Oh shit, I got to go catch up to her now." You know what I mean? But later, Western's going later. Joe, catch your buddy. Um, so anyway, this is where once again the Project X part comes in. Okay, is that we were in an area just like when Mike's in Long Island, I assume, and these things would not be in these areas like this. There's just no way, like logically, right? So I'm left with, listen, a tree snap happened, a rock got thrown at us, no people in the woods other than us
Yeah,
at the time. All right, out of the woods we finally went, and we talked to the NYBS ambassador crew. I messaged Mike about what happened. Now, go a couple days later, we go back in the woods with Denali. So now we're walking the dog. We have a 130-pound monster Leonberger, dog that's monster.
yeah.
So now we're walking back in the woods, walking around the trail, once again, going to try to pick up stuff, but it's got dark quick. And so we're walking around. Everything's cool. Everything's fine. No problems. We went counterclockwise this time. So we went the other way because
Yeah.
something different, and then out of nowhere, Rachel started getting a headache. Well, at the same time, she started getting a really bad headache out of nowhere. Like something was working with her. Now, Rachel's an empath, so she does have psychic abilities. So she starts having something working with her. I'm totally fine because I'm walking the dog. And out of nowhere, Denali's like, I'm like ready to go. Boom. She starts like jetting out of the woods. And she's
Yeah.
dragging us like almost running out of the woods. Now, this dog hikes everywhere with her. Rachel brings this dog hiking everywhere. So once again, dog was booking out of the woods. And then we're left with, she had a brain encounter, like she had pressure in her head. She felt like something was working with her, things like that. And we're left with another weird encounter. So it's one of the things, like, I don't know, like it follows once again, the Project X way of thinking. And like Sarah said, Project X, the paranormal look and spiritual look into the Bigfoot phenomena, where a Bigfoot shouldn't really be in this area where it is because of how populated it is. This place that we are is a very populated area.
Yeah,
And we do hear the stories, obviously, of Bigfoots going in people's backyards and stuff like that. There's tons of farm fields and stuff. But because this is in a populated area, it would be like, it is what it is. I just wouldn't think a Bigfoot would be in this area. But I mean, it's possible because once again, it comes back into this weird stuff that is what throws rocks at you, right?
yeah,
A Bigfoot. Now we get into the weird infrasound encounters, right? Was Rachel having an infrasound encounter, and these headaches that she was getting was actually a possible infrasound encounter? Or
mhm,
was it a psychic phenomena happening? You know what I mean? So it's one of those weird things again that just doesn't make logical sense, but it happened.
yeah,
And because it happened, it is what it is. Like it is what it is.
yeah. So like basically you remember how you ended up, right? Like after your vision or whatever you want to call it or your mind speak or whatever that encounter. When you got back, you sat on that log, you were shaky, you wanted to go, you wanted to get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just get that. Like
Hmm.
it there is no like vision or mind speak. It's just like get the fuck out of here. Sometimes I think it's for our own good, honestly. I this is where I think they befriend us or they're friendly to us, and sometimes like they get a bad rap for it. But I've found they kicked me out like and kind of like hurted me one time. Like
Yeah.
they were like tree knocking around me and like it was a triangular fucking tactical movement of like rock clacking and knocking and growling and shit. And when I finally got to the car, I realized how many fucking eyes were in there and they didn't all look the same. And I
Hmm.
started to think like, damn, those Pine Barrens are a different story. And there was a reason they got me the hell out of there because they
Hmm.
could. Why would they do it in such a like at the time? I was like, man, this is kind of aggressive. Like this is kind of forceful. But looking back, I'm like, it could have been way worse.
Yeah.
Like you know what I mean? Like it could have just never made a sound. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
almost like the fucking people say like it's the police because you hear them like when you're dealing with the mob. Like to me Bigfoot's like the mob. Like you never know what the fuck's going on until it happens. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah. And like to answer, Sarah's questions, do you think it's a vision or a form of like remote viewing? And maybe it is. I mean, it could be either or. I mean, once again, that's the weirdness because it fits into those categories. It depends on, I guess. See, this is the thing when we get into Bigfoot. It depends on what side. Like we talk ghost, right? When we're talking with ghost people, we talk about remote viewing. We talk about all the psychic things. We talk about all those things, right? That's normal talk. That's very normal talk in the ghost community. Now, when you get into the Bigfoot side of everything, we don't talk about those things, right? Those are things we don't talk about: remote viewing, psychic encounters, visions, and stuff like that. But we do hear a lot of them. So, because we do hear a lot of that stuff, I mean, that's why it sounds different because it's in a different field of study. But once again, is it really so different because we're making it different? But it could be
yeah,
exactly the same thing. It could
could be
literally be
it.
the exactly the same thing.
Could be it.
But
I mean like so like for instance like all these things like I mean like remote viewing like maybe I don't know how to do that. Like I don't know how. Like I don't know anything about it really, and maybe that's why it just doesn't happen for me. Like we like I've always been a fan of like educating myself, certifying in like everything and anything, and like that's how I ended up in like Reiki, like you know what I mean. And
yeah.
like I like yoga. Like I would never know I liked all that kind of shit if I didn't do it. Like and like the same thing with the Bigfoot scenario. Like this stuff like happened to me, you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
otherwise I might not know about it. But so like I don't knock people necessarily when like they don't know things, but like I really do think like some things I don't know, like you always said like, oh, I separate my ghost hunting and I separate my Sasquatch. And I'm like,
Yeah.
damn man, if this guy ever fucking puts down that barrier, it's on. Like if he ever
Yeah.
drops that wall, it's gonna be on for him. And like I always
Yeah.
said
That's
that to
what I've
myself.
done. And that's what
Yeah,
I've
you
done. I
did.
mean,
I mean, you
honestly, that's
did.
what I've done
But you can't
I've kind
you can't tell somebody to do it. You know what I mean? Like you can't
no,
be like, this is what you got to do, man. Like,
yeah,
because maybe it's not. You know, maybe that's not what you got to do. I only know me. Like, and that's another thing. Like, if I figure something out, I'll say like, for me, for my area,
mhm,
for this spot, like this is what I found out over here in this small little tiny nook of the world. Like,
yeah,
I don't
and
like
that
when like people say like, oh, this structure is worldwide. Like, how the fuck do we know that?
yeah, and then
How do
how do you know? But how do you know there's even real structures? You know, we don't know. We
right,
assume.
right,
Well,
yeah.
it's all assumption. And like when it comes to tree structures, I'm very questionable on a lot of tree structures.
Yeah.
But anyway, I mean, to go along with what we're doing here at the New York Bigfoot Society is that once again we've taken the data, now we're building data. Sorry, we're building data, and we're measuring it with devices that we wouldn't usually use ghost hunting, but now I've brought them into the woods with us, and then we're actually able to create data based on this, which is I think it's super important. I think it's super important, because if you don't try these things, how are you ever going to know? And then second off, I feel like I do a justice to a lot of other people because, excuse me, at the end of the day, we're researching a side that a lot of people put down these people, right? So they look down upon these people being like, well, they're all into the weirdness because the reason that they're into this is what I was told by people
Easy
nonstop.
targets. Easy
Yeah.
target. It's
Easy to, you know
you're
why though?
a
Oh man.
minority. Like when you're a minority or you're doing something different, period. You know what I'm saying? Like you become an easy target, like
Yeah, and the thing is that bothers me, and I guess more and more as I get on this journey that we're in, is that the reason people say that I'm just going to say the paranormal side, so that's where I'm going to leave it. The paranormal Bigfoot people, the reason that from the people that I talk to, the reason they say that they're kind of against the paranormal side of the Bigfoot is because it comes to the fact that they say that these people are out in the woods looking, so that's great. I'm all about boots on the ground researchers. But when they can't find what they're looking for, instead of just saying I don't know, they start making shit up and they start doing these circles and they start trying to get you to look into that because what they're saying is
yeah.
since we can't find Bigfoot, it now must be a paranormal thing where it's invisible, can shapeshift, can disappear, all these different things. And yeah, Sarah, you're right. Remote
Well,
viewing is a natural ability. I mean, you either have remote viewing or you don't have remote
right,
viewing.
right. Yeah, it makes sense.
I mean, that's where it's at.
It's like a psychic ability, basically. You know what I mean? Like a lot of these psychic abilities too, like you I don't want to say you guys, but like people have gifts, but they don't know how to, you know, work them necessarily. You know
Now,
what I mean? Like if you're a medium and or you see like you see something, whatever. Like I mean, for instance, like I have this connection with these forest people, but I don't necessarily know shit about it. Like I don't know. Like
mm-mm.
I'm just every day I'm just trying to fine tune it a little bit. You know what I
but
mean? And
but they trust you, and that's the thing, and that's where that's where I'm working on getting at now to get to the level where the ego's down, we're in the woods, we're just doing our thing. And that's why I just brought up that story about recently just getting the rock thrown and the tree snap and at our local preserve, only because once my at that day, just like that woman told me very bluntly, she's like, listen, and it was really strange, she's like, Gary, the Sasquatch is talking to me up on the hill right now, and he's saying to me right now that they want to communicate with you, but you need to get rid of your ego. And because until you get rid of your ego, you're just never going to be open for that line of communication. And they want to talk to you. And I'm like, okay, like, thank you for coming to the lecture. Like, you
I
know what I
mean,
mean? Like,
it's true
what?
though. Like
No, it
I
is
don't know,
true.
but I don't know how to come to you when I get a message about you. Like
Hmm.
they told me to tell you to go over that fucking hill, Gary. Like how do I come to you and tell you?
Yeah.
I don't
No,
know,
I
but
know.
I just do it. I
Well,
just do
Rachel,
it. I don't. But
so
that's when
Rachel went running today,
I
just
had
like
to
you.
learn. Yeah, I had to learn to not give a shit and just say
Yeah.
it. Just fucking say
No,
it.
So
you know?
Rachel went trail running. I mean, for a lot of us, we're trail runners, we're ultra runners, we do a lot of that crap. So she went trail running thing. She went into the area that once again that we take care of. And she came to me when I was coming home from work, and she was like, "Just so you know, I got a message for you." And I'm like, "Well, huh?" They said, she goes, "I heard in my head that you have to open your soul." And I'm like, are we back to this again? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and obviously there has to be something. This isn't imaginary shit being made up from
Yeah,
nothing. And
yeah,
once again, she just tells it like it is. She's like me. She's not a liar. She tells us what it is. So I'm like, all right, here we go. So maybe like, as we continue this journey and things like that, I mean, obviously maybe I'm on that right path of being like, listen, put the ego aside a little bit, getting into the woods, getting data, getting the things that I do, but try to do it from a point of just doing, you know what I mean? And not really caring. So once again, that's a me problem, as my daughter would say. That's a you problem, Dad. That's a me problem. Okay. So that's what I
yeah.
need to work on, but in the fact, it's like we don't use, and like one sub person just said above, and they set it up perfectly. Joey Hayes said, the fact is we only use portions of our brain, and he's 100% right, Joey. I mean, that's the facts. And the facts are that we know nothing about the brain, barely at all. So when you put that into a consideration, then we're left with, what, these things could be real. Quantum physics, all these things could be, happening. And just because, other people are just like, well, no, it has to be a human type thing. It needs to be an ape type thing. I am now, once again, doing the project and being open to all things Bigfoot, all sides Bigfoot. That's what we call a researcher. And
I
as
think
a,
Ron, I think Ron Moorhead's like one of the first people I ever saw like just openly be like, yo, let's just fucking mix them up. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, let's
yeah,
just put this shit together. Like, just, you know, and like, I don't know. Like, I don't know him well enough to like talk about him, but everybody knows the Sierra sounds and shit. You know what I mean? Like,
yep,
and I respect him because he could have hung his hat on that. You know what I mean? He could
yep.
have hung his hat on that
Oh
and
yeah,
just been like,
you can't really argue.
yeah, like you could just walk around with a muscle, but like he kept going and he fucking and I don't, like I respect that, but
Sarah has a question.
okay.
I like it. What do you got?
Uh,
But
no, nobody stands corrected, Joey. We're all just fucking shooting the shit here.
yeah, I mean, yeah, we don't. I mean, I wish they just don't know much about the brain. Like I say, yeah, Ron Moorhead is one, and Carter Bushcraft. Carter Bushcraft, he's another one that's wrote 2 books on, he's a BRFO investigator forever, and Bushcard. And once again, he is now leaning toward Bigfoot being more than what we say it is. When we say it is, being a living, breathing thing. So. Do you think? Yeah, I mean, Sarah, that's actually a great question, and that could be a big one too. Is that whenever there's energy in the woods, and even you could be right on that too, because I wouldn't even go woods. Let's go when we ghost hunt. When we go into houses and we do these investigations, we can feel the energy in each room, right? As psychics and empaths and just sensitives in general, you can feel if the energy that's hitting you. So if once again energy spots in the forest would have to have the same effect in some way, shape, or form, and just depending on how open you are to that energy, I guess at that time, it really you could be 100% right, because being sensitive and and not always being aware, and then it hits you, especially when you're not expecting it. I mean, you could be right. These could be high energy areas. And this is the whole point of why in this area that we've now been taking care of, my goal is to get some readings out of this area to
Yeah,
then create data. Mike and I have talked about it on the backside,
yeah,
but the goal now is trying to get data to then document what Sarah just said, document energy or frequency or something in that environment that then could then tell us that it is weird. And because we had a Bigfoot type situation happen, we may be able to start correlating stuff with readable evidence. And when I
Yeah.
say readable evidence, numbers,
Yeah.
okay, which then backs up, it backs up the backs up the plausibility of Bigfoot being in this area. Someone
Yeah.
asked me earlier also, do we ever catch EVPs in the woods?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. Yes, we have caught EVPs in the woods. I've caught plenty of EVPs in the woods. Also, what we've caught in the woods, I've caught Native American gibberish in the woods. So we've actually caught something talking Native American. We don't know exactly everything it said in the EVP, but when we had a native person actually listen to it, they were like, yeah, that's a native tongue.
Mm.
So, but it was almost sounded gibberish. So was that a Bigfoot? Maybe. Is it a Native American, deceased Native American? Maybe. So we're kind of left with like, yeah, we get that. And I have used spirit boxes in the woods. Now, the problem with a spirit box in the woods, in my opinion, though, or a portal box in the woods, is that when you're in the woods, those things are so loud. So literally anything that's around, I mean, if we're
I know what you're talking about. The spirit box.
the
Yeah.
spirit boxes. I mean, if we're trying to connect with spirits and things like that, I mean, it is possible. And obviously, I have used them in the woods and have gotten answers in the woods using spirit boxes. But those answers, once again, I'm very cautious on a lot of those answers because they're radio frequencies.
Mm.
But I mean, if you want to go by, we have gotten answers in the woods. So, with
Well,
that,
that's like Jimbo just said, like what he said, break out the pod soon. So like he's talking about the REM pod that we were talking
yeah,
about, and
we're
like
talking about
so he sent me a REM pod, a tri-field meter, a few things.
that.
So today which is cool because it's just like it's tools that I never had, like so now we can use, like so it's awesome. Like, but we were talking about maybe doing something with the REM pod, like there and here and stuff. So I actually did break it out today. I didn't post the video yet, but I went down by the pond, like one of my I call it the honey hole, because like they're all over the fucking place. Like they don't really approach, but like when you put up the camera, you could see that they're there. So I just left the REM pod out, like down by the shore. I was just like, like whatever, like I'm gonna put it here if you guys want to touch it, like do anything with it, cool. Like I walked away from it, but I just left it there. And but I brought out the tri-field meter and the radio frequency and the magnetic portion was going pretty wild, but like not everywhere, just in some spots, you know what I mean? Which is weird to me.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I
I
mean,
don't know
those
much
are
about it, but
yeah, those are cool little tools. So, all right, man, I gotta
yeah,
get going in a couple
yeah, I
minutes.
know. I gotta go too, so I'll let you go, bro. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. And Footer Nation, thank you so much for having me. And I hope we can do this again. Like I say, I hope I have, some more data and more information when I come back next time. Because, this is why we're doing this. Mike and I work together.
Oh,
And
I got
I'm
you one of
hoping.
these. I got us
So,
both one of these so we can.
there we go. And then field trips all over. So,
The big
but
app. All right,
but
bro.
just know just know everyone, we're out there trying our best. Okay, so we're trying our best for you, everybody, trying to get the best stuff that we can find and just tell you, and whatever that is, it is. And you can follow me on the New York Bigfoot Society Facebook page if you're interested in any of our work. So as I always say, stay safe out there, Footer Nation. Listen to the people who are telling you the good stuff, and as always, keep it squatchy, and we'll see you on the
Thank you, bro.
trail. Deuces, everyone.
All right, guys. I appreciate you all. I'm gonna go back in and help Sarah out because she's been holding down the fort for an hour now, and my time to get back in there. Mark, what's up, bro? Montauk is strange land. Thank you, John or Gavin. Sorry, Tim T, Rob. Sarah's not pregnant anymore. She'll be out there. Jimbo, thank you, bro. Miss Cindy, good to see you. Scotty B, what's up, bro? Larry, what's up? Joey, thank you. Um, damn, Danny, what's up, bro? Joey boy, thank you, bro. Thank you guys for being here. I'm trying to go back and see, Um, I was trying to like say hi to you guys. I try to put it up and like salute or whatever. Try to keep it flowing. But Christian, what's up, brother? Um, yeah, Tacey, good to see you. David, bro, always a pleasure. Well, blues and music, hey, what's up? It you didn't necessarily forget tucking that thumb. That's fresh. Thank you for being here. I shouldn't even say I. We usually do this at 9, so uh, it just happened this way. Gary had a 8 to 9 slot open, so we just kind of jumped on. It was short notice for me. I wasn't sure if I'd even be able to get on, so I was able to. So I wanted to get in here with you guys and hang out for a bit. So I appreciate you guys. Yeah, anytime. Yeah, if you guys have screenshots or you want to like send a message or whatever, um, if you're a female and you don't want to talk to, Sarah's there, like just say, hey, I'd like to speak to Sarah. Like just say that in the message and she'll answer you. Um, you guys could send screenshots or, if you have something you want to talk about offline, you know what I mean? Like, I get it. I get it. Like we were talking about easy targets earlier. Like, I get it. It's not always easy to be out here in the public. And, you know, like these guys, like Western New York, Bigfoot was here earlier. Like, he's a good person to talk to. There's a lot of like good people you can go to and talk to freely that will listen. If I'm not available, I'll get you to somebody who can. You know, Adirondack Bushmaster, what's up, bro? Good to see you. All right, guys. As always, thank you, thank you, thank you, and have a wonderful, wonderful night. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, the rest of your Sunday. God bless. Appreciate you. That's fresh. We'll figure it out. We'll get to you. We're supposed to set up an email. So, all right. Take care, guys. Good night.